Forward to. Okay, no dramas. Thanks for interrupting. Sorry. What I'm looking to get out of today is I'm in a good space, in that open and receptive space. So I feel really tuned in at the moment. So whatever comes, I'm gonna attack it like a dog to a bone in the coming days, really. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation that's popping out. And I've been looking forward to today for quite a few days, actually. I don't know why, it's just something I felt. Peter, how do you feel and what would you like to get out of today?
Thanks, Philemon. I'm feeling well. Unfortunately, Kat's not. She's in bed recovering. She sends her love to everyone. Yeah, I'm feeling good. I've been, through the last couple of days, I've been revisiting Gurdjieff and the fourth way. And he talks about the fourth way is the way of the spiritual path. That's the new path, which is, it's not the yogi, it's not the monk, and it's not the fakir. It's an individual path for the common man. And in these rather perturbating times, I felt the need to strengthen my inner peace muscle. So I've been revisiting him. And I'm looking forward to today. I find these calls fascinating because we talk usually about somewhere between 1 and 4 concepts usually, and yet the conversation is rich, and you would swear that we were covering 1,000 miles, or maybe 10,000 miles, I don't know. So I'm looking forward to it. Joseph, how do you feel, and what would you like to get out of today, mate?
Hi, Peter, thank you. And I hope Kat gets better soon. I'm feeling pretty good. It's been a little bit of a long week, but I'm really looking forward to understanding a little bit more about comprehensivism, because that's what essentially this is that Fuller is talking about today. So I'm really excited to be here and really excited to see everybody, and looking forward to just learning more and to keep on progressing as we do each week. Manu, my friend, how are you, and what would you like to get out of today?
Feel good.
Good.
Emerging. My voice is still some kind of from yesterday's not boogie, but good times. I'm also grateful that everybody's in there today. What I expect is just to continue on enriching the 4 words that we agreed that we are going to progress, during the course of a while. So that's what I expect. Anne, how do you feel? What you expect?
Thank you very much, Manu. Good morning, everybody. Okay, I have to say that I'm super excited, and I've got these chills running up and down my spine at the same time, because the topic for today is just, it's what Bucky spoke about is exactly what we've been working on for the past 13 years. So I can't wait to see how I'm going to be able to further move in the direction we're going with the team that Kelly has pulled together. And I would like to dedicate it to Blair for planting the seed of Bucky and Kelly for growing that tree. But literally, Kelly spent time with us to help us, and the whole idea of Bucky kept popping up and popping up. But today, like right now, a few years later, I think five years later now, we're ready for this. And now with the team here, it is about replicating that tree and grow that forest. So thank you very much. I'm super excited. So what I expect, yeah, that's my expectation. And passing on to Henry. Henry, what do you?
Nelson.
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 Nelson. Okay. Nelson, how do you feel and what do you expect today?
Thank you, Annie. I'm feeling very, very well. I'm excited too. And my expect is to learn more about the means, universe, and conscientiousness. Thank you. That is my feel and my expect. Thank you. Rafael, what do you feel and what do you expect?
I feel great. Thank you, Nelson. I'm really happy to be here. And I'm looking forward to the call. I think what I expect is to get again more exploration into Baki thinking, and the fact that we are building groups of 4 words and then relating to another set of 4 words, and that means a double tetrahedra. And to me, the whole point about geometric thinking is absolutely critical in today's world. And so that's why I invited today a guy, I mean, who's Julian Riveros. He's very much interested into education, and that's why I invited him to join this call. As I was talking to him about what we do and how we study Baki and how he can start relating Baki to this education project we want to set up here in Colombia as well, and then relate to what other people are doing around the planet around, you know, understanding design, universe, and geometric thinking. So I pass it on to him. So Julian, how do you feel and what do you expect?
Okay, Raphael, don't drop him in the deep end like that, mate.
Okay.
Julian is one of Raphael's former students, and it would be really interesting for you to catch up with Julian, because he's basically talking about what you're doing in Malaysia. He's talking about doing it in South America. So again, it's good for connections. Raphael's not going to push the barrel, but I am.
Okay, good.
It's important that we all understand our backgrounds. Nelson's the same. Nelson and Karine are in Colombia pushing this barrel of education. So it's important that we understand that. And so explain to Julian what he has to do, Raffers. He has to speak to us. He's welcome to comment or listen, whatever. Give him a background so we can get right in the deep end of the call.
Okay. Actually, I told him before, actually this morning in Colombia, what we're doing and why I thought it was a good idea for him to attend. He's also used to our rituals, so he understands them as well. So basically, Julian, as I told you earlier, this is a group of like-minded people who love to study and understand universe and applications of Mr. Fuller's thinking. So we want to join, contribute, or just listen to the call. So perhaps you want to share with us how you feel, again, as we do it in Spanish, and what's your expectation?
Okay, so he's here now. He's just checked in again, so hopefully we got.
Yeah. Hey, hello, everyone. I was having a trouble with the device here. It wasn't working, so I had to connect from both devices, but I'm going to log out from the other one. So, hello, everyone. I'm really pleased. I'm really glad to meet you all. Like, thanks, Kelly, for that intro, because yeah, I've been knowing Rafael from a long time back, since school, and also have been grateful for the opportunity to work with him on our startup. So today I was I'm feeling really with a lot of enthusiasm, because getting to know how people is thinking about education as a way to look into the fundamentals gives me a lot of excitement, because Rafael told me about how geometric thinking, how all the knowledge that we can gather around this kind of framework to learn new things based on these findings. I think this is amazing opportunity. So I feel that, and I expect to know a little bit about how you work on this every week. So I'm just expecting to learn a little bit about what you're looking for and how this can be helpful to what we are trying to do with education.
Thank you, Julian. Who can pass it on, Julian? I think Lisa.
Okay.
Lisa, have you
Yeah, Lisa.
That's
Lisa.
Lisa. Okay, Lisa. So Lisa, same to you. How do you feel? And what are your expectations for today?
Thank you, Julian. I'm feeling pretty good, considering, as Henry said, we've been back in lockdown just for a few days now. But I read a picture recently that said pandas eat up to 15 hours a day, and so do humans when they're in lockdown, which is why it's called a pandemic. So that's pretty much what we've been doing, eating.
Nice.
So we're feeling pretty good, and the sun's shining here, and I'm just thrilled that I have no excuse not to be here. Nothing is preventing me from being here. So I'm really looking forward to see where we get to today. Kelly, how do you feel, and what would you like to get out of today?
Well, Lisa, the thing about Australians is we always come bearing gifts. And, you know, you'll think twice before you make fun of us for beating us in the rugby now. You know, we successfully locked down your country and we didn't even have to win the game.
Thanks for those gifts, Kelly.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you for sharing.
You're always welcome. What do I actually feel like we're moving towards something of initiation, that where we can start to move out and we can get a message across, because we're getting to the part where I think we're starting to understand Fuller's words. More importantly, we're understanding his language. And so all of a sudden we're not so taken aback by the geometry of his thoughts. And it's probably, we're getting near the time where you can actually go out and start teaching this stuff, so that, you know, when you're looking at it and you're thinking, oh, Fuller might have been 10 years ahead of himself. But I think we can safely think that he was at least 50 to 60 years in front of himself. And education, the life cycle of education, I think we can safely say we're now striding into what would be the lag cycle for education. Pick it up, or pick, you know, say we're going to run with this. And I think that's important. I think it's important that you have people that can actually work with the words and work with the language. And that's all we've done for, I hate to say it, 20 years. But again, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And so I'm actually getting quite excited. I'm rereading a lot of stuff. Like I read some of the stuff out of Bucky's World Games. And one part of the World Games really took me aback when he talked about capital investment and the way we think about capital investment and the way we think about, I've been on my wagon about this idea of self-regeneration. And I think economics works on the idea of spent. Something is spent. And so when we look at, from an economic point of view, we look at it and we say to ourselves, how do we get it so it self-regenerates? How do we mimic that self-regeneration? And when we have something that's spent, it won't regenerate. And most of our economy is built on the idea of spent. It's a spent energy. It's not going to regenerate itself. And so I think that that's really going to start to show out. I mean, one of the the big things that's going on in the United States right now is they're talking about a $3 trillion bill. And you know, people are saying, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that, because all of a sudden you're spending all this money this year, but the money's not spent. The money's to develop economies, is to develop infrastructure, is to develop regenerative processes. Because fundamentally, the United States infrastructure is spent. And the lesson we're getting is, you know, sooner or later, you're going to get a lead pipe that's going to contaminate you. And then all of a sudden we're saying, okay, well, let's not change the lead pipes. It's too expensive. And all of a sudden you won't expense for that because you're saying it'll be spent. It doesn't spend, capital investment does not, is not spent in a year. You're talking about something that's going to go for 50 years or its life cycle. And somehow we've got to get that thinking into what we're doing. Our education system has got to look at and say, we want a regenerative process. We don't want a spent process. So anyway, that's just a thought. What do I want to get out of today? I actually want to get out of today us becoming more aware of language, the words, and the intent, because they're small words. But I think the words apprehension and comprehension are probably two of the most misunderstood words that we have. And from a marketing perspective, we're totally confused, because we think we understand what they mean. And fundamentally, I don't think we do. So let's see how we go with that. Joe, are you up for the reading? Okay, good. So I'll share that. And it's like, we'll see Steve won't be here, John won't be here. They've both apologized. Susan could be late. So let's just see how we run and where we're going to get to. Extract. That's the one I want there. Okay, has my screen come up?
Not yet. Oh, there it is.
Okay, and just let me get to where I need to be. Okay, so shall we start?
Universe is the minimum of inner transforming necessary for total self-regeneration.
Okay, so stop. I pulled this out of another document because I thought it was that important. What is he actually saying right there? This is an absolute Fuller statement from his World Games. He's not saying necessary for the total sustainability.
It's for transformation. It's for transformation itself.
And
so,
yes, keep going.
So basically, how do we move from where we are today in order to become self-sustaining or build a self-sustaining system?
Yeah. So if you're looking at that, go ahead.
It doesn't use the word self-sustaining.
No.
It always use eternally regenerating. Eternally regenerating.
Why is that so important, Manette? That to me is what the whole Fuller study is about, is regenerative.
Yes.
So the universe's whole existence relies at the bare minimum on self-generation. If there is no self-generation, we kind of implode on itself.
Self-regeneration.
Yes.
Yeah.
A minimum of transformings, which is, I guess it's like energy. Energy, you can't create it or you can't destroy it. You have to transform it. You change it.
It's reshaping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as you look at it and you say it's necessary for total. So when we look at it, we say plastic. Is plastic good or bad?
Neither.
It's neither.
Yeah, it is.
And so what is the problem with plastic, or what is it that we have to solve with plastic?
It doesn't
We have
break
to know
down.
first the life cycle of plastic.
The life
Pollution.
cycle of plastic.
Yes.
But the only
and
thing
take
that
into account the design. Yes.
the only thing that makes it polluting is its life cycle.
Yes.
Because if you've got this long life cycle, and then you've got this concept of spent. So you look at when I was a kid, we used to get the milk delivered. And so when you delivered the milkman would pick up the bottles and replace it with other bottles. They would constantly be recycling them. Now, what do you do with a milk bottle today?
Milk
Check
carton.
it.
Yeah, and they're one use spent.
Yes.
Fashion, fast fashion exists as well. People just wear it a couple of times and it goes into landfill.
Yes.
And so when you start to look at that, it's not intertransforming. Is that a fair statement, Manu? It's not becoming something else. It's becoming landfill. And right now it's out of cycle. So it goes into landfill. What's the what I was going to say very best, but it's not. What are some of the attributes of stuff going into a landfill?
It leaches into the ground and contaminates it.
It can do that. What else can it do?
It kills all the organic
Soil.
how will I say, beings there, because you know, if you discharge plastic on landfills, the flows of exchanges are completely distorted.
Yeah, it distorts capillary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's this betweenness. What about when it creates methane gas?
Yes.
there are some
Yes,
things
yes,
that
yes.
regenerate.
Yes.
So instead of just saying, we're going to chuck all of this in the landfill, sometimes there are things that you can chuck in the landfill, it'll regenerate.
Yes.
Yep.
So again, is that the way we think? Is it the way we think about it and look at the cycles, the lag cycles?
So not in general. That's not the way, you know, the things go on in the world today. Somebody want to use plastic is just for a container, you know, like is to go to the store, buy something, you know, come back with, and then they discharge on the landfill.
Is it a useful container?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It has a use. The problem is, what do we pay for its use?
Yeah.
It's like at some moment we've got into this idea that it won't self-regenerate, so it's cheap enough that we can keep producing it, and it's stable enough that it does its job. But at the same time, what does it do to the environment?
Yeah.
Well, there's so much of it floating in the sea at the moment. It's bigger than some islands.
Yes.
Can I take it somewhere else as well, to another level? Because at the very least, I just wrote this, we need to lead our lives with a regenerative focus, not only in product, but also in thought. So a regenerative thought is solution-based, it's moving forward, it's almost that abundant thinking, coming up with the solution. So it all goes inside, really. We're talking about products, we're talking about stuff, but how many of us don't think regeneratively, I can't even say the word, regeneratively in that way? Like,
I really like what Philemon is saying there, because I've had sometimes maybe a slight frustration that we are getting into kind of static circles. You know,
Right.
it is that we accept that we are in first and that we are knowing through divisions. So your mind should always be in a flow, you know, in that you are adaptive, you are learning. And I like when you say that, okay, it is there in the way that we live. We should be open to learning and to having feedback, open to feedback. We can't come into a state where we are just like a steady state. It doesn't. It will always a steady transitory state. A steady.
Keep going, Manu.
I was just saying it's steady for as long as you haven't learned something. It's
Okay.
not going to be steady again when you learn something.
Okay,
You know,
so at that moment,
Yes.
at that
Yeah.
moment, do we have to get rid of the idea of 100%?
Ooh,
100% perfect.
yes.
Unless it's a universal truth.
But one of the universal truths is bodies in motion on bodies in motion.
Recession.
And so when you look at that and you're thinking that you're going to particleize to 100%, last week we talked about perfection, and perfection went to stagnant.
Mhm.
So what that connotates to me is everything has a risk. And if it's going to be intertransforming, it starts to come together and then it's going to move apart. And then as it moves out, it's like at some moment, it's never going to be perfect
Yes.
because it's always intertransforming for
Yes.
self-regenerative processes.
Yeah.
And the word inter-transforming, the way it's written here, inter-transforming, inter, between, trans, either transiting or changing into a form, a pattern.
And there's always losses.
Yes.
Yes, because
And
when we talk
as long
about
as long as we are in between, I don't know, you're gonna get tired of me, of this thermodynamics principle. If there is a process, there's a cost to a process. There's
Yes.
always something left.
So now when you're listening, let's think about COVID. And they give you these numbers like 99% effective or 99% efficient, or you're going to get a blood clot with this and not with this. That is the reality of the universe. And they make it sound like it's something that can be controlled. And do we have confused messaging all over the world?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And the confused messaging, does the confused messaging come from the idea that you don't have to take a risk?
Yes.
So when you look at it, people get all caught up. It's like, but you guys said that it was 99% effective, and then somebody died because they had blood clots.
Precisely.
And it's like we've got to get rid of that because of the fact that there's a risk.
Right.
Mhm.
And in my reality, it is always intertransforming.
Mhm.
And they're saying, well, there's all these different variants. What do viruses do by absolute process?
They vary.
They transform.
Mm.
And so this idea that it's not going to happen, it's like what we have to do is realize they're going to self-regenerate. They don't sustain, they regenerate.
Yes.
And so if we just look at the different thinking between, so we're constantly saying, people saying, oh, it's got to be viable, sustainable. And in my mind, it's got to be viable, regenerative.
Yes.
A viable, sustainable is 100% perfect, which we know is impossible, and they're still chasing that. Because like Henry said, universal laws are probably the only thing that's 100%. But the in-between is different for all of us. If I've got high blood pressure, well, the inter-transforming on the journey there would be different for you who has this issue, for instance. But the universal law at the end is a truth. But the process, we've been getting it all wrong because we've somehow been, what did you just say? Trying to make it 100% perfect before people commit. People want 100% guarantees in the medicine.
Well, we're looking at the illusion of that is my point. And I'm saying that at the moment you go into this idea that it's going to self-regenerate, a virus is going to self-regenerate.
Oh, yeah.
And it's efficient. And so when we're looking at this thing, we're saying, okay, how do we in our thinking become efficient? So at that moment, it's like something that sustains over a long period of time. Plastic is quite sustainable. But what have we learned about plastic being sustainable?
It's unsustainable for the earth.
Well, sooner or later, it gets to a point where it needs to be transforming into something else. I mean, if plastic became worm food, would we all be happy?
There is actually a global movement right now of people working to create a new economic system, which is based on self-generation of generating the earth, regenerating the earth. It's actually called seeds currency. Okay, they've created a crypto that pays people or give money to people who are regenerating in any way, shape, or form. Like it can be society, it could be the environment, or anything to do with helping the communities around the world. And it's a global movement. And they've said they're working on a new economic policy and making currency more than money. And they have got so this is something that we've been working on bringing our school into that ecosystem. So I don't know if any of you are, if you're interested in finding out more about this, I could send you the link. There's a whole community out there working on that right now.
Okay, and so when you talk about seeds, why do you think we use the word seeds?
To regenerate, to grow, to.
Okay, and so the second you talk about seeds, would you allow mRNA into your discussion?
Yeah.
Does everyone understand the question?
Yeah.
No.
mRNA is not self-regenerative.
No.
What is mRNA?
It's the vaccines that they're wanting to shove into your arm.
Yep.
And they're already talking about boosters.
Yes.
So why are they talking about boosters?
It's not enough. It'll mutate. It'll change.
Well, your body, your RNA doesn't replicate it, Henry.
Right.
Yes.
And so it's actually bypassing or looking to bypass your RNA. That's a very simplistic way of viewing it, but your body's not being asked to. And in my mind, the reason why I say, what about the seed? All I am is the seed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you change the programming of this seed, what's going to happen?
The rose becomes a weed.
Well, when you start to think about it from a regenerative process and you start to say to yourself, okay, I'm a seed, no different from the Monsanto seeds that have a one life, and then they regenerate because of they don't have the imprint to regenerate. So effectively, and I don't say that is, I'm saying that's a possibility that we're damaging seeds. Does that make sense, Anne?
Yeah.
And so now it's a very, very complex thought to think that, just think of yourself, we're all seeds. And we all have a coding. And is that coding, how are we passing on the seeds? And this is about the intertransforming. So if you look at this thing and you say, you know, that Manu on the call, he's kind of dark. Right? But what is it in his seed that creates the dark pigment? This is what Fuller was constantly thinking about. So what is it that it's created as intertransforming? It's all design. It's not that there's anything terribly unique about it. Do you understand the point I'm making, Manu? His design is no different. It intertransforms because of the environment.
Yes, it is a particular adaptation.
It's adapting over time.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, it's a self-regenerative process. All right, are we ready to move on? Do you think we've got enough apprehension out there, Joe?
I think we do. What is what is apprehension? What is comprehension? What is positive? Why? What is negative? Why? 301.10. Universe is the aggregate of all humanity's consciously apprehended and communicated, non-simultaneous, and only partially overlapping experiences.
Okay, comments or questions?
So the word apprehension is one that always trips me, because vaguely what I recall being taught at school was apprehension was fearful of or nervous of. So people are in apprehension of the boogeyman. Yet the context that apprehension is used in Fuller is grasping or understanding or getting clarity about. So I'd welcome a bit more discussion from everyone on that one.
But tell me what the difference is from what you said to what you said.
Well, if I'm apprehensive of something, I'm fearful of it. If I'm
No, it's if you're apprehensive of something, does it say you have to be fearful of it or you have to be considering of it?
Mm-hmm.
You were a condition.
It's a condition. It's a condition of what we're saying. So it's like the real problem is that we're saying apprehension is about fear. What is the conditioning or the overriding conditioning of most of the things that happen in an economy today? Fear. So when I said to Joe, have we got enough apprehension going on? By just the conversation we're having about self-regeneration. Now it can be a subjective or it can be an objective, which is what we've been studying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand that in your definition that it changed that much. We've been conditioned that it might be fear, but it's something that's there. And maybe as we go down through this, Fuller will lead us to it. And I think you're correct in what you're saying. People are saying it's all about fear. Is it all about fear?
Fear is a part of it. I mean, the apprehension, as we talk about it in fuller terms, is more about the awareness. Are you aware that something's there? If you're aware that the boogeyman, and then the precessional effect is he'll come and kill you. Yes, there is fear. It's down the track.
But if you're aware that fear was created in your head, you can also create an awareness that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, I prefer to think of the tooth fairy.
Hmm.
My grandkids, they say the tooth fairy's coming and he's bringing me $1. And I always say, geez, he's a cheap ass tooth fairy, isn't he? It took you 5 years to grow that tooth, and all he's going to give you is $1.
My Sufi mentor once told me a while ago, you will never solve all of your problems in one lifetime. And that's what I got, like I got reading that paragraph. The universe is the aggregate of all of humanity's consciously apprehended and communicated, non-simultaneous and only partially overlapping experiences. And it just reminded me of this paragraph I listened to, this song, which I memorized years ago. You know, awareness is my virtue, and I'm grateful for the search to dive deep within my own mind and to trust the intuition of the lives I've lived before this, our essential form of gnosis. It's a simple form of freedom. It's as smooth as inhalation. And I thought, I'm a shit. But the wording of that is like, it's like you said, non-simultaneously, just having the awareness and to dive deep into the mind and to trust the intuition of all the lives before us, so to speak. That's what I got in that paragraph right there. And most people are looking at the problem. They're looking at the quick solution, the fast fashion, the instant gratification of social media. And they're not realizing that we're a product of so many lifetimes before us. And that takes work, you know, that takes time. That takes no results and a very esoteric way of thinking. That's what I got in that paragraph.
Yeah, well, what I got was don't give up your day job.
Well done, mate. Well done.
Ouch. Ouch.
Keep going, Joe.
Sure. The 302.00 aggregate means sum totally but non-unitarily conceptual as of any one moment. Consciousness means an awareness of otherness. Apprehension means information furnished by those wave frequencies tunable within man's limited sensorial spectrum.
Okay, stop. Is this starting to help, Peter?
Yeah, look, I understood everything that's just been said, but I opened up. I'm just searching for it because I opened up the dictionary definition of apprehension, and it is nothing like that. And I've got bloody 15 tabs open, so I'm just trying to find it again. Apprehension, anticipation of adversity or misfortune, suspicion or fear of future trouble or evil. The faculty of apprehending or understanding perception on a direct or intermediate level, acceptance of receptivity to information without passing judgment on its validity, often without complete comprehension. A view or opinion on any subject, the act of arresting or a seizure. So
But how does it differ from what he's just said? Means information furnished by those wave frequencies tunable within a man's limited sensorial spectrum. How does it differ?
Well,
I was thinking it's like, you know, when you feel fear and you're thinking, why do I feel, your body's picking up something that you're not consciously aware of. And that's kind of what I see his meaning being. You're like, I'm giving you a signal, and sometimes it looks like this, sometimes it looks like this.
Well, if you go back to what it says in the first thing about communication and non-simultaneous, it's a frequency.
Yes.
So it's something that you're tuning into. Now, whatever you're tuning into is already there. So if you take all the definitions that Peter's given, they're all absolutely, I understand his apprehension, and I agree. What I'm saying is here, he's taking a very pragmatic view and saying it's a wave frequency. And it's tunable within the man's limited sensorial spectrum. So now what is that actually saying?
Let's a little bit be grounded here on the spherical thinking that we've been talking about for so long. Consciousness is AM tuning. That's what it is. Life starts with awareness. awareness of something. You don't know, but you just know, you just feel that there is a form, there is something. That is basic. Now, apprehension is that now you are dividing with whatever tool that you have to count that, to account for what is that otherness, is frequency modulation, frequency tuning. Let's just be clear about that, because our impression, what Peter was saying there was a kind being into the store and just counting everything in from the store, from inside the store, to define what the store is. That will be a little bit different from seeing the store from outside. We always talk about the experience of astronauts that went out of space and look at Earth from that top, different. So this subtlety, it is to me fundamental in Bucky's geometry of thinking.
But what's the fundamental part, Manu?
The fundamental part
it's okay
is
to
that,
talk about apprehension and having all the different ways of viewing it, but tell me what the fundamental thing is.
the fundamental thing is that it started from the macro.
The fundamental part is a wave frequency.
Yes.
Yes.
It's just the wave frequency. And it's tunable. What makes it tunable?
Your sensorial awareness.
Your sensorial equipment.
Yes.
And now add to it your sensorial awareness.
Yes.
Yes.
But fundamentally, it's a wave frequency.
Yes.
Yes.
And so if we can view it like that, we can start to say, okay, it's one of these things that goes on, and how do we know what it actually means? And how do we take it from the point of what he's talking about? So let's keep going, Joe.
Okay.
I wanted to say something about apprehension, if you mind.
Go ahead.
I was hearing you about how what was the relationship with comprehension, and I see that apprehension in the dictionary, or in if you find the synonyms of apprehension, you can get misled, because there's one side that talks about fear, about a concern, about how apprehension is this worry that you have, and on the other side it's also understanding. So what I'm thinking is that maybe apprehension it's a complement of comprehension, because think about, when do you have fear? When in which situations you are concerned or worry about something? It's when you don't understand, or when you have a misunderstanding of the future, or maybe there's a big uncertainty about something that you don't have control. You are worried about that, so it's something that you don't comprehend, so you get nervous. Or for instance, when people get scared about ghosts, is because they don't understand why is that strange things happening. So on one side, comprehension can be those things that you completely understand, or that you start to make sense. And on the other side, apprehension are those things that you still don't understand. So it completely makes sense, for me at least, to think about those wave frequencies, about a sensorial spectrum that we may have, because sometimes you can be faced with a difficult situation, but there's a feeling inside, that I don't know how to call it in English, but in Spanish is a presentimiento, a feeling, like feeling before. I don't know, Rafael, if you can help me with the translation.
Feeling, yes.
Intuitive.
Yeah, like intuition, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you can feel in your body what is going to happen is not good. So maybe both of them can be complement. So I wanted to
And could that be a design feature?
maybe I will try to look maybe at what the apprehension
if you look at it from this idea that energy flows to the least line of resistance, energy always flows. And so at some moment, could it be a design feature of this body that says, maybe I should be careful or cautious?
Yeah.
And now it's starting to move on. So go to the next thing. And I as well put, thank you, Julian.
Yeah. Apprehension is the first part. You have to be aware of it. You got to feel something. If you don't feel it, you don't know of it. It's like a bus. If you didn't look at the bus and it ran you over, you're gone anyway. You're not even looking the right way.
Okay, so the next line, please.
Communicated means informing self or others.
Okay. Okay, right there. Communicating means informing self of others. It doesn't mean it's factual. It means this is what I'm picking out of what's going on right now. So when we start the conversation, I go into this huge AM, oh, this is all out there. And now all of a sudden we're going into FM, which means it's specifically tuned to me. Am I correct in using the AM and FM in that way, Manu?
Yes, I mean, I try to use it as generally as I can, all the time. Because remember, plurality is from division of always division to multiply.
So
But does it mean communicating and informing self and others? Does that mean like, so for FM, does that mean shorter intervals? So that
means it's more direct and it's more proximal.
Okay.
When you go AM, it's like when we make this broad statement, oh, plastic is terrible. And you'll get a lot of people that agree with that. But plastic doesn't have a feeling of being terrible.
Yes.
You know, plastic is just there. It's how you use the plastic. And so now all of a sudden it's like, oh, you got to get rid of plastic. You got to get rid of plastic. You got to get rid of plastic. Yes, it's probably the way that we're using plastic as a spent entity. Maybe we need to think about it because it's polluting the planet. And now we're becoming aware of that and we're informing each other of it.
Right.
Now,
Joe,
now what are we going to do? Go ahead, Manu.
Let me just give you something that might kind of help. Imagine ping pong balls, right? Held by a net, and there is a fall of water. You drop the tied net from the top, and it goes with water. Will all the balls fall at the same place?
Yeah.
At the bottom of a fall?
No.
Yes, if they're in the net.
Oh, if they're in it.
Now, if I
Okay.
cut the net loose and I repeat the experience, where are the ping pong balls going to be? When they tumble, when they're carried by the energy of water falling. They're going to be different places.
All
Will
over,
there be variables?
Yes.
That's
exactly the principle that we are.
I like that.
So apprehension and comprehension in the process is that we have parts now that are exchanging. The exchange, because energy flows. Energy, there's always energy. Energy flows and always flows to the line of least resistance. And it flows with the part that are in that energy because you are part of the energy.
Okay, let's keep going. Otherwise, we're not going to get there.
Okay, let me see. Non-simultaneous means not occurring at the same time. Overlapping is used because every event has duration, and their initiating and terminating are most often of different duration.
Okay, so can we say that plastic is a non-simultaneous overlapping and has different duration points that have to be considered?
Yes.
So now all of a sudden, when you're producing plastic, like one of the things that's going on is we say, oh, let's get rid of all the single-use plastic. You got to use it at least twice. I still don't know if that's going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
But again, what you're looking at is when it's initiated, when did it start? And when does it terminate? When does it finish? So there's a life cycle. It's saying it starts and eventually it's going to become something else.
Yes.
And so when we're designing something, do we have to consider that?
Yep.
Because don't forget, that's what this is about. It's saying, can we design a future? And what do we have to consider when we're designing a future? Apprehension, in a lot of ways, is a very, very good safeguard because it forces comprehension. It forces the experiment. Comments or questions?
Well, you got to know what the problem is.
Yeah.
You can also say that design is the imagination of a utility of things that are already there at their different site. How will I call it? At different segment of their life cycles. Let me just explain what I mean. You take plastic. For now, the utilitarian use of plastic, say for example, is, let's just take it, is bags for shopping, right? But this plastic, designing means that from the beginning, we imagine that after the use of a plastic, what can we use for? Or where can we store it in a way that it will continue its cycle without being a real threat to the existence of our species or something of the sort.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going to the last sentence of this.
Neither the set of all experiences nor the set of all the words used to describe them are instantly reviewable, nor are they of the same length. 250.
No. What's he saying there?
Neither the set of all experiences.
I think he's saying that the experience we've had in reading them are all different.
Yes.
I think it's clarifying the non-simultaneous and partially overlapping. That's what.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
More understandable.
And they're not all instant reviewable.
Yes.
So now you're starting to see, and that's where you start to go into division. And that's why you start to look at most of the stuff, most of the speed created on the planet today is not created in whole numbers. It's created in fractions of numbers.
Yes.
And now are you starting to see the decimal points moving? And so you can say, nor the set of all words. How many words do we have to describe? And Peter demonstrated with apprehend.
Yes.
So now you get into word definitions and how many definitions can there be to describe them? And then you get to the reviewable. And nor are they the same length. What does that mean?
It'll vary with the experience.
Yes.
There'll be noise also.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden you've got to consider noise
Mhm.
and all the other stuff that goes with it. So now we'll go down to the next one.
It's important
250.
to note that noise is always in relationship to a process, to a design.
That's
It
why
is.
that's why you can't get 100% Manu.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Say that again, please, Manuel.
Say again.
What was that you just said? That was really good, but I didn't get it all.
I say noise is always in relationship to a design.
Yes.
There will always be noise.
That was
Yes.
exactly.
And who creates most of the noise, Manu?
Philemon. I'm just joking.
Yeah, you don't need to joke about
I just had to joke.
Oh, well played.
Okay. So now let's keep going.
250.52. When I witnessed the inertias and fears of humans caused by technical breakthroughs in the realms of abstract scientific discovery, I realized that their criteria of apprehension are all uninformed. I see the same patterns of my experience obtaining amongst the millions of scientists around the world silently at work in the realm of scientific abstract discovery, often operating remote from one another. Many are bound to come out with simultaneous discoveries, each one of which is liable to make the others a little more comprehensible and usable.
Okay, so what's he saying?
Knowledge builds on itself and creates momentum towards its own fulfillment.
Okay, I witness the inertia and fears of human caused by technical breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so now when people have these technical breakthroughs, are the processes that we have, are they trusted?
No.
Usually not.
Shouldn't be.
Well, there you go.
Well, there has been a lot of mistrust, and herein lies your problem with the vaccine in science, and a lot of science has been manipulated. That's why there's been mistrust.
Right.
And there is a lot of apprehension of uninformed, and you get their fake news. You had Donald Trump saying, "Oh yeah, it's not real," and that doesn't help.
Or even something, I was even thinking of something like if we overuse something like antibiotics, and something like that can poison what people's opinions are of something like the vaccine. That then it becomes, how did this process come about and how did it actually come into being? And then you start to question that.
Yeah, but there's another aspect there as well, and it's under the heading of propaganda and censorship. In the current, for lack of a better word, debate about the vaccine, there is a very strong push that you cannot question the settled science. Well, I'm sorry, there's no such thing as settled science. Science is questioning, ongoing, forever. And yes, this is what it is today, and then we build on it and question. And when the media uses propaganda to say you can't question this, veritas, truth, always welcomes questions. Science always welcomes questions. It's only propaganda and censorship that doesn't welcome questions. So that very thing, what I've just said, is the basis of a lot of mistrust, because, we've got this thing called a bullshit meter, and when people tell you can't question it, well, that's like a bully in the schoolyard saying you can't go over there and he's going to thump you. The level of that's happening in our world today is insane. And from my view, humans, one of our biggest gifts is the ability to ask questions. And
Yes.
in the pursuit of truth, there should be no question that shouldn't be able to be asked. And if a scientist or a media or a politician tells you can't ask a question, they are manipulating, they are obfuscating, they are censoring, or they are lying. any of which will increase mistrust.
Yes.
Okay, so read the last line again, please. Many are bound to.
Many are bound to come out with simultaneous discoveries, each one of which is liable to make the others a little more comprehensible and,
Usable.
usable. Yeah, it popped up. There's something popped up right in front of it. Usable.
Okay, so at that moment, what's he saying?
You'll get consensus over time.
Basic science.
Saying all of this stuff is going on. We think it's in the realm of an exclusive individual.
And it's not. No.
It's not. What he's saying is it all comes out, and then we have them competing. That's why we have this concept of win-win or win-lose. There's no winners or losers in that. It's their discoveries that are enhancing our ability to live on this planet.
Yeah.
And so now when you get into this, and you can hear what Peter is saying about trust and mistrust, instead of realizing that there's all of this coming out, it's to do with the environment and the way energy flows in the environment. And we start to look at it and we start to say, here are our problems, and people immediately go to solve a problem. We're problem solvers. That's what he says our job is to solve the problem. But all of a sudden, we comprehend something, and then we put a patent on it, or we put something on it that gives us a legal right to that discovery.
And then that brings in the economics of it.
And then it goes to economics, exactly. Instead of realizing it's a discovery that we can all be part of, and know full well that there's other people that are other events that are doing exactly the same, but you cut them out because of legal process.
Yes.
And it's not good, bad, or whatever. It's just saying that's what's going on.
You know, there's actually an issue I'm struggling right now, and this helps me a lot, you know, because I was struggling with it, thinking that it was a small problem. But now that you're talking about this, it makes me realize that this is not something to be underestimated, because what I'm talking about is that I'm trying to help. I'm working as a volunteer on a community here in Bogota, in Colombia. This community is a settlement, an informal settlement outside Bogota. So you don't have many of the services, basic services, that it's an illegal neighborhood, something like that. So I'm trying to make them aware of how to make the decision to either get a vaccine or not, because some of them are not into vaccination. And you know, I was thinking, okay, so maybe they're not aware of how science can work on our side. But you know, realizing that people is uninformed and that there's a fear here, the criteria of apprehension are all uninformed. Like, this is starting to join all of the pieces, because when you start to see science, when every one of us right now, we can make science right now. We can see that gravity works the same for all of us, but that's in our reach. Vaccination, it's out of reach to many people. We can't just get a lab full of people and make them a test. And if people is mistrusting about those scientific people, this makes all of that a big trouble, because even if you trust in science, you have some of those scientifics which you don't trust. And if there's so many, so little people who can access to those proofs. So in that way, I don't know how many people in the world can do an experiment to see if vaccines are really safe or if they are really efficient or effective for all the population. So how many laboratories can do that? There's too little, and if I mistrust all of them, so I'm mistrusting all of the science behind that. So I'm struggling with that because
there's a simple choice there.
And yeah,
there's a very simple choice. You as an FM tuner, you can make the choice.
Yes.
And the thing is, if you make the choice and you say I don't want the vaccine and you die, that was still your choice.
Yes.
I'm not here to tell you which one to take or not to take. I'm here to say, choose and get the best information that suits you. And if you get the best information and you die, guess what?
That's the end of the experiment.
That's the feedback of the experiment. That's the problem. People don't get it. You've got to take a risk.
Right.
Exactly. But that's because us, I don't know, maybe we have already made an experiment in our lives, you know, like we know how to take that information and make a decision. But
every day is an experiment.
Yeah, constantly changing.
Every day is an experiment.
Yeah, but because you are aware of it being an experiment, but there's people who don't realize how science works, that don't understand that if you try something, there's a result after that. They don't understand that. They just fill their heads with information about what comes in the television, what comes in WhatsApp, what comes in Facebook. So they start trying to guess, and they're not aware that there's a way to make all of that information to make sense.
So what's your job as an educator? That's why we're on this call. What's the job?
Well, to open,
to increase awareness
to help
our
to help us make a choice.
Yes, to increase the awareness of our design.
Yes.
Billions of people have died for the awareness of our design. Make no mistake.
And how do you change someone's awareness if he doesn't believe in something? If you have to get too deeply into that person's consciousness to try to guess.
I don't think your job is to make their decision for them. I think your job is to teach them how to think so they can make their own choice.
Exactly.
And if their choice isn't in agreement with what you prefer, that's still their choice.
Yes, it's exactly.
Okay. Because there are people who have died taking the vax as well.
We could be for another hour, but I want to go to design. Finish it off, please.
Sure.
Sorry for the
No, that's very good.
No, apologize.
Well made. But the point is, I'm not a victim, and I don't want you to be a victim either.
Yes.
That's my point. Let's keep going on design.
But with design, with that, you've got to look at the outcome. What is the outcome of it? That's very much a part of the design when you look at it. And so you look at, why did they design the vaccine in the first place? It is to outcome.
Yes. Okay. So please finish it off for me.
Sure. 263.02, our brains are physical tuning capabilities consisting of uniquely resonant atoms and cells. Apprehension consists of resonant atoms tuning into congruently resonant atoms.
Okay, what's he saying?
I'm really
We have the ability to tune in.
Yes, but tuners.
I don't want to question Bucky here, but is it our minds? Should it be our minds instead of our brains? No, I do want to question Bucky here.
Now, this is the relationship of the two. The brain actually stores it, and the mind relates it.
Relates and interrelates.
So the mind does the apprehension.
All right.
the physical tuning ability.
Yes.
And so that answers Julian's question. We have to increase the tunabilities through education.
Mhm.
Yes.
And if you start to realize that, then you'll start to realize all of a sudden your mind kicks in. And what does it do with relationship and interrelationship?
Yes.
Next.
Connect, it feels the connections.
Yes, it doesn't fear them.
Okay.
So
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Ooh, that's kind of like how I like living, actually, which makes no sense to so many people.
but
You don't get the connection.
if you get the connection, then all of a sudden someone else will.
Yeah, but I make sense here because we talk this stuff. So that's why I look forward to my Sundays. But for the rest of the week, I'm buggered. People are trying to bloody lock me out.
Well, so they should.
Yes.
Okay, let's finish it off, please.
The fourness of self and the fourness of otherness equals comprehension. Comprehension involves tuned in octave resonance as well as omnidirectional and local angular integrity. The sum of all the angles around all of the system's vertexes must add up to 720 degrees, which is not only 4 triangular enclosures, but is also unity as 2. For 360 degrees is 1 cycle, ergo 720 degrees is equals unity 2.
So rather than try to go through that, this is what this call has created.
That's pretty cool.
Right? Would you agree, Manu? We drew this months ago.
Yes.
So you've got your macro out, micro in. Then you've got, to Philemon's point, decision, macro mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have micro brain. And then you've got your, if you look at it, you've got subjective, objective, you've got leading, you've got lagging. You consider circumstance, happening, events, and vital nows. And you've got your tuning tools of see, touch, smell, hear, and taste.
And all of this happens in microseconds without us even knowing.
Well, it's happening all the time.
Yeah. And the more we have trust, the shorter what I got in looking at all that, the more we have trust in this, the shorter the lag between how our life, how we walk into our life, how we become aware of things around us. And my awareness of me is different to your awareness of you. And mine is not better than you. Yours is yours, mine is mine. But the trust in that and the understanding in that is really magical when we don't make the others wrong. And I'm trying to say, no,
it's quite correct. It now leads to there's no right and there's no wrong.
Wrong, yes.
I often say I'm a hypocrite, but I often get called a hypocrite. Often I go, yes, okay, I'm a hypocrite. I mean, because what is right for me, what's in front of me, is not right for you, and I'm going to suggest for you because I can actually see your unfolding and I can see your resistance, your apprehension, and stuff. But if I were to do my basement version of myself, so therefore I am a hypocrite, and something came up in one of the earlier paragraphs. Not the word hypocrite, but something along those lines that explains, puts more meaning into what I'm trying to say. We're not letting people be themselves, their tuned in self, because we fear that that's not like us or disagreeing to us. Therefore, it creates division, separation, etc., etc. But people just don't trust themselves. Back yourself and go for it.
Part of the design, mate. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
And Kelly, can you put the artifact again, please?
Yeah.
I was trying to move on, but okay, there you go. This is my drawing and my interpretation of
Yes.
what we did weeks ago.
That's a nice double
Yeah,
tetrahedron.
you didn't put all that you put that, in terms of the tools. There are 2 more words there, vestibular and Yourself.
Under that, yes, you can do that.
That was Susan and
Yes, that's true. And I had a drawing available, and you got the drawing I had available.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm always open for correction, and I'll add them to the drawing. That's why we have conversations, is to actually get to that moment. But if you look at that, that's one of the artifacts that we've been developing. And so we've got several artifacts like that we've developed over the years. And as you start to look at them, can we make them relevant? That's my whole thing. Can I make it relevant? And at that moment, will people understand it? And unless we can understand it, I doubt whether we can educate it. So,
Yeah.
But what you also say there, in that, just in the text of Bucky, is that you can't talk of things and processes exchanging without a minimum of 8.
yes.
Without the 720 degrees.
Yes.
Did you understand that?
Yeah,
The
no,
720
I do that, but if we keep, it's the thing that I've learned the most is you got to keep saying it. Telling people, it's not until they pick it up will they understand it. Me telling you
Well,
make any difference.
it is the expression of duality. It's
Yes.
always macro, micro.
I agree. And
Yes.
and under a the sooner everyone can say what you just said, it means we're starting to make a difference.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So again, I'm going to be horribly late, but Philemon, how do you feel? What do you take away?
Okay. I enjoyed today's call. How do I feel? I'm feeling pretty vibed up. You're a particular adaptation of your environment. That's one of the notes I took in a conversation between Manu and Kelly in there. I really like that. Sometimes I'm happy to be a bit of a dummy in terms of having grown up not understanding words properly. And one of those words is apprehension in this call today. And thank you, Julian, because when you butted in, you said, Julian, when you butted in, you said, you mentioned something about the two understandings. Because when we started off, I always thought apprehension for me was I don't understand. There was no fear around it. It was just, I don't understand. And then the start of the call was the definition of apprehension. A lot of the speak was around the fear of not understanding. And it made me understand how a lot of other people understand, if that makes sense. I kind of glued something in. Because I've always thought, I just don't get it. Tell me, or what do I need to do? I don't get it. I'm apprehensive. But what do I need to do? There's no fear. But now I understand that there's this whole population of people that actually apprehension for them is I fear doing. I've never registered the word like that before. So that's the number one thing I got out of today, that the meaning of the word is so important, and I can now understand others and their apprehension towards things because of their meaning and understanding of apprehension. Don't know if you got all that. Joseph, how do you feel? What did you get out of today?
I'm feeling good, and I'm feeling very fortunate to be here and to be part of this conversation today, actually. And thank you, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to read. I'm taking away from the one sentence that really hit home for me is the apprehension means information furnished by those wave frequencies tunable within man's limited sensorial spectrum. And then I was able to connect that with the AM tuning and the FM tuning that we had talked about previously, and what that exactly means, and essentially how the frequency modulation fits into that, and our consciousness and apprehension. Apprehension is FM tuning, and consciousness is AM tuning. So I'm able to kind of put those two together. That sentence makes a whole lot more sense to me, no pun intended, when we were walking through that. I also was taking away Anne's recommendation of the idea of seeds with that it's a very interesting company with regenerative currencies. So that's a very interesting thing as well. And then just some other good discussion all around. The idea of money being spent already it's not necessarily part of a regenerative process. So that was also a very important point for me. I'm a little all over the place. My notes are a little all over the place because I was reading. So, Anne, how are you doing, and what are you taking away from today?
Yeah, thank you so much, Joseph. Actually, I'm shocked, good shocked, yeah, because when I first looked at the diagram, I was looking at it through a fog, a very thick fog, and just within a space of an hour plus, it cleared. Like it cleared, and it's not just that you can see it and understand it. It's in high def, you know. So I get it. I got it. So that's one. The other is so thank you very much, everybody. The other one is, my God, the idea of science. The idea of science. It is because right now I realize from the discussions today, the textbooks, now there's a way to explain it. Yeah, the textbooks for most subjects and science included, there is actually very micro. There's no macro in the books, right? And so I realize now what we've been doing with our students is the macro. And science is about, because we were very clear, it's about the undiscovered as much as it is about what has been discovered. And textbooks are all about what has been discovered. So that conditioning is, it creates that inertia and fear that Bucky talks about. And that even in light of what is obvious, that science is all about questioning, you know, and the students are taught not to question. And there's nothing in any of the exams about questioning things. And, you know, you come up with your own experiments and, or even your own, you know, like a hypothesis, nothing on that level at all. So it's the macro that's actually missing from education in general. Okay, so that's what I've gotten out of it. And now I think moving forward to explain it, I think we have got a lot more clarity on making it make sense to the parents and the students that we are talking to. All right, so thank you very much. Yes, it will be right. Raphael, how do you feel and what is your takeaway?
You're muted, Raffers.
Yeah, sorry. So thank you, Anne. I feel great. That's a great call. I mean, what I take away is, again, and not to repeat what other people have said, because I share a lot of those findings, is that essentially by design, we are all scientists, because our design is to question and to run our own experiments and actually live our own experiences. So when we relate to what's happening in the world today, I think Becky said very clearly, to be able to hold even opposing points of view in my head and then work out what do I feel in terms of apprehending my own experience, what sort of action I'm going to take and how I increase my level of awareness. And that's what we need to be teaching people. Again, the immense value of asking questions, so even challenging what was already there. And again, making choices. I know of a doctor, for example, that refused to get a vaccine. And this doctor actually died of COVID. And now what I said to the person, oh, it is very sad, this poor doctor. I said, look, it was his choice. He was aware of the risk. He knew what he was doing. And and the result, well, he's dead. It still doesn't make it right or wrong or sad or good or bad. It's just something that happened. I mean, what do you learn from that? What's the experience? What sort of choices are you going to make today? And again, start from the point of view of if this doctor rejected a vaccine, and he was a researcher, I mean, a homeopath, and very much like our dear friend Susan. But again, the fact that I can accept what other people choose to do, based on their own information and their own discoveries is absolutely legitimate. And that's what we all do. We take risk every single day. I mean, waking up in the morning and going out to the whatever involves a level of risk, and how I mitigate that risk. And that's what you should be teaching people. And I love again, this drawing that we have built together. It shows the power of working together, how ideas evolve, they become more complex, but at the same time, we can all understand it. And the fact that something like Ant, who is fairly new in our calls, can actually start to understand what we talk and what we have built, that to me is great, because it's all about learning and sharing the journey of discovery. So that's what I feel, that's my takeaway. So Lisa, how about you? How do you feel and what's your takeaway?
Thanks, Travis. That was a good call today, everybody. Thank you. It's always good when we have discussions about meanings and differences and the experiences we have that bring us to these differences of understandings. That's probably what I get out of each call, is just our experiences, which are all different, go in to make this whole that we are building an understanding of, so that we can move forward in a better way. Well, better, not better, whatever, but a way that we have a choice. And I think that's it for me really this week, is just the fact that yes, we take information, we assess it, whether that's from AM or FM frequency, and then we make a decision, taking into account the risk of the information we've got. That's it for me. Thank you everyone for sharing. Manu, how do you feel and what was your takeaway today?
Oh, it was really, really energizing today. I feel like I've gone one mini cycle and I come back with this artifact and I knew there's something that is, I'm not the same. Something is different. There's a new understanding, meaning that in actual fact, question again what I had in the past. But like apprehension, comprehension, and the positive and negative. Positive and negative. Positive exists because there's negative. Positive is dividing. Negative is multiplying and reinforcing. That's what it is. So it divides by, it multiplies by division. Another thing that I get here is the fact that our design, and I think it's Raphael who said it, is to question what goes on around us, what goes on, what goes on within us. And another thing that is also that I get is the design, and that come back to my, I'm not going to say the word, but that's the word. I would say anti-entropic pattern. Design is to imagine the different patterns over the cycle of something, and then imagine that utility to everybody, to us, for a while. That utility will be only valid for a while. After that, it's going to be obsolete, and then it's going to go to something else. So it's quite important in design to know the life cycles of those components that are discovered and that we know, because we can take advantage of them. Another thing, I'm not going to get longer to this, is that life is all the collective of all experiences that are diverse, happening everywhere, and not partially overlapping and always changing. And we identify patterns that are of duration for a while that we can write, or which we can step aside to let pass in the pursuance of the regenerative of our species, of our, let's call it biology. And that's what I get from here. Otherwise, I'm really grateful. And Philemon, you know, I don't know how many of those sharp guys are on your payroll. So you are a dummy of intelligence. That's what I'm saying. That's it. So, Nelson, how do you feel? What do you take away?
Thank you, Manu. I am feeling very well. Thank you for this call. And I take away. I learned about each time we accumulate experience to increase awareness that I feel and that I take away. Thank you. Julia, what do you feel and what do you take away?
Thank you, Nelson. Well, I feel grateful for given the opportunity to be talking with you and meeting you and getting to understand you from whatever place you are. And what I take away today is that there's a lot of new things that I've learned today. There's new words that I never thought this morning that I was going to end the day with those kind of new words in my head. Now I will not forget them. And also I wanted to thank also Anne and them, because what you said at the end about what education is missing, because leaving questions out of what you are trying to students to get to, and realizing that you're talking about only one size of information, that is the subject that is known, and leaving outside the things that you don't know. That's the thing about science, and anyone can ask about science in any way. So I take away that. So thanks, and I take away from Kelly, thanks a lot for your input about this mess I was struggling with about how to approach other people that I'm trying to help them become aware, because the job as an educator, it's really to open their minds and help them realize that there's something outside of them, that even if they don't understand, that they are able to understand if they make the questions to get to understand that. So making them aware to see that if they want to be part of an experiment where they can die, or they want to make part of an experiment where they can give a chance to survive, not only for them, but their community, that like maybe approaching that way can help me out. So I'm really, as I was telling at the beginning, I'm really grateful to be able to hear you. I really like a lot Manu when he told about how thermodynamics, about the noise, about the things that get lost in the process. Thank you for that. So yeah, many more things, but I think those are the ones that I'm going to keep the most.
You can pass it on to Peter or Henry.
So Peter,
Henry.
or Henry.
Peter, how do you feel?
Peter, how do you feel, and what do you take away?
Thank you, Julian, and welcome to the call. I'm actually feeling quite proud of myself, and I'll give you a bit of a backstory. Between grade 1 and grade 10, I got belted every single day at school. And I mean every single day. I got belted violently because I had questions and I didn't accept the answers that were given. And I'd ask my questions. And I very clearly have a view today that the purpose of education is to teach people how to think, not what to think. And having experienced education where it was, this is what you think, and my spirit rebelled, I'm actually quite proud of myself that I did rebel. But I'm actually quite, I think I'm quite encouraged. I'm feeling quite connected to spirit because Anne and Nelson and Raffas and Julian were not just open that there should be questions, but fully supportive of that. And my personal view at the world today is that every single person is going through a spiritual initiation at a scale that's unbelievable. And I really don't care what choices people make. You can make whatever choice is right for you on any topic. What I actually care is that you make those choices of your own free will and not having been manipulated into or coerced into a decision. Because if you make a decision from your own free will, it tends to be, it has a higher frequency, it has a higher resonance. So I'm encouraged by that. I could actually mention a few other things that I got out of today, which was, and I will, which is the regenerative process versus a spent process. I actually think that's, I think the experiment of the spent process, I think humanity spent enough time, play on words intended, on that particular experiment, and it's time to experiment with a regenerative process. And the only other thing I took about, and I couldn't get it out of my head, I mentioned it, and then it got mentioned by about 2 or 3 other people, was the boogeyman. And the boogeyman originally in India, once every, I can't remember if it was once every year or once every decade, someone from each village would take on the sins of the village and go out into the forest by themselves. And they'd take the sins and pain and suffering of the village. And, going out in the forest by yourself meant death. But that was a sacrifice for the good of the village. And when the English colonised India, they started telling their children, be good or the boogeyman will get you. So that's the actual history of the boogeyman. And I think there's nothing to fear but fear itself. And with that, Henry, how do you feel? And what was your biggest takeaway today, mate?
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. Feeling great. Great call. Learned a little bit more about apprehension and comprehension, and it's better definitions. Philemon touched upon it about regenerative thoughts. That is how our thinking has to be. We are all educators. Everybody has to educate. I sell, and one of the sayings we have in our company is to educate to motivate. So we go in and we see customers, we have to educate them, get them to the point where they actually understand. First, they have to be aware of their problems. So I start with outcomes. What are you looking to achieve? Then I work on and then I ask them, what do they know? So I apprehend where they are at, and then get to comprehension. And then I will challenge their thinking if their thinking is not correct, because I know a little bit of something. So then I teach them that little bit of something, a little bit at a time, get them to the right point where they actually understand it. And I know if I'm successful, I'll walk out with a sale. It may come in 2 hours, it may come in a day, it may come in a week, it may come back in a year, but it happens. And that is the process. So defining this a lot more is really good. And it comes back to sovereignty. You have to know where you're at, what what you understand, what you comprehend. And if you comprehend it really well, then you can teach it and you can share it. Whether people agree or not, that's up to them. But ultimately, you'll see the outcome. So it's really good. Really enjoyed the call. Thanks very much, guys. Kelly, how you feeling? And what'd you get out of today's call, mate?
I feel grateful, as I always do at the end of these calls, because I feel grateful of the attention and the fact that people really do engage, and I love that. I was particularly happy that we took Anne out of the fog with our drawing, because that's what it's supposed to do. And in our formula about symbols hold space, it made a lot of sense, because that will hold space. And I like that. The idea that I missed 2 of the senses that we discovered on the call. I don't put anything in I don't understand. And I don't actually understand those well enough. I'm testing them all right now, and I do it in swimming pools because I lost my balance. So now I'm understanding the inner balance stuff. So I get that. But I don't like putting something out that I don't understand. So that's just one of the things. But I do like the fact that we have an icon now, or at the very least, something that brings all the thoughts into a single thing, and you can say, okay, boom, I can tick off all of these things and I know where I'm at. So I like that. So thank you, Anne. Thank you for being honest about the fog. It's like, and I can now use that diagram a little bit more, and I'll, as I understand the other 2 things that Manu says are missing, and I agree with him, they're missing, but I don't understand them. So, you know, if someone else wants to put them there and take credit for it, I'm happy for that. But at this stage, it's like, that's where I'm at. But I want to leave you, the other side of it is on the seeds. I'm very much a believer. I'm a farmer, and I very much believe in seeds. And I think right now, the stuff that's going on around the vaccine is about seeds. It's about our seed. And I have this funny thing that goes on every day. I go to the sauna. I do my exercise in the gym, and I go to the sauna. And there's always sauna talk. You know, all the bulls in the pen are sitting around talking sauna talk. And today our sauna talk was around the vaccine. And we had somebody that was really quite august in the sauna today. We had a guy that was at the university, and he was working on this idea of vaccines. He was one of the guys working in vaccine research. So I thought, oh, this would be interesting to see what his point of view was. So they're all AstraZeneca, or should it be Moderna, or should it be this, or should it be that? And he said, oh no, quite definitely it should be the mRNAs. And I'm saying, you know, I understand why you in the industry want the mRNA, but I said, isn't that killing the seed? And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, isn't it going to mean I'm going to have to get a vaccine all the time? And there's another guy sitting beside me who had the AstraZeneca. And the first time around, he thought he was going to die. It hit him hard. And, you know, I said, isn't that what it's supposed to do? Isn't it supposed to challenge your body to see what your body would do? And they said, oh, I don't know. And I said, but Robin here has had the second one, and he had no effect. His body started to take care of it. And so for me, it's a real simple decision. I won't take the mRNA because I want my body to do what it's designed to do. And if it does it, okay. If it doesn't, I'm going to die. Well, you know what? We're all going to die. But I'd rather keep the seed strong. And that's what the seed is about. It's about, let's take care of our seeds. As simple as it gets, we're a seed. And if we can take care of our seed and we don't keep contaminating the seed, which we've done, and, you know, Who knows? It's up to the individual. Personally, I don't care what vaccine you get or if you don't get. If you die, that's because you don't take the vaccine. That's not my choice. Right? And if you live because you don't take, that's again not my decision. It's not what I do. But what I would rather do is think about it. I'd rather know that if I'm going to take an NRMA, that I'm committing to vaccines for a long time, or not vaccines, boosters. Already they're talking about boosters. They're talking in the United States. Biden's talking about, oh, I'm going to get my booster. Why do you need a booster if you've been vaccinated? Because of all the strains. But isn't that what every virus does? I asked the question, doesn't every virus mutate? So I'm saying, you know, it's like, please, at least give my body a chance to be my body and do what it's designed to do. I've got a DNA and I've got an RNA, and I want them both to work. I don't want to bugger the seed. And that's what I think we're doing. We're fucking up the seed. I don't like that idea. I'm a farmer. I like good seeds. So I leave you with that thought, and thank you to everyone, and I'm very grateful. And I'll keep you in touch with the sauna talk. I'll talk to you later.
Yes, please do.
I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Nice seeing everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a good
See
week.
you guys.
And we're only just a little late.